Labvakar, Radio Naba ēterā. Šodien mums tāds speciāls gadījums, būs studijā īpaši viesis, un mazliet pirms tam maz tāds ievads paskaidrošu, kādā sakarā. Rītā Grīvas mēbelēs liels notikums, es domāju, Latvijas mūzikas dzīvē, vai pie mums uzstāsies grupa Zīs Silvermount Zion, un, es būšu diezgan cinisks, tas tāds, es domāju, nopietns satricinājums Latvijas mūzikai, un mēs pirmo reizi varam varbūt klātienē redzēt kaut ko, kas ir patiešām šobrīd vārda tādā pareizajā semantiskā izpratnē moderns, noteikti neatkarīgajā mūzikā. Un pie mums viesos ir grupas ģitārists un viens no dalībniekiem Efrims Manuck. Hello, Efrim.
Hello.
Very nice to meet you here at our studio.
It's very nice to be here.
Yeah. So, maybe we can start our conversation. I just want to ask you, you have a big tour going on. How was the beginning of the tour?
The beginning was good. So far the shows have been good. Except for Sweden, which is a strange place to play, the shows have been really good. So,
is it hard for you to get together? For you have a pretty tight tour. Is it hard for you as a band to get together and to go on tour, or?
I mean,
you have to prepare yourself somehow.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of time getting ready for sure, but we're used to it by now, so it gets easier all the time.
And you have later on you have like show almost every day. Is it hard to get your inspiration and motivation for every show?
It depends on what the audience is like or what the space is like. Because of the type of music we play, we're lucky. There are nights when, if we're tired, we can still play a good show because we can play quieter stuff or slower stuff. But it all depends on the people who are at the show, If we never play shows, we play really good shows sometimes when the audience hates us. Those are some of the best shows we've ever played. And we play good shows when the audience is at least engaged, like we talk from the stage a lot. We try to talk to people. I mean, if the people at the show are open to that, then it's always a good show. If people are just standing there and staring, then it's usually not a good show.
And how do you prepare for a show? Like, you get some knowledge about the place where you're gonna play, or just whatever place?
No, I mean, there's a lot of places that we've played before, so we know the places, but usually you have no idea. You arrive and hope for the best,
And maybe you can tell for our audience who doesn't know Silvermount Zion, what can they expect? I mean, like, will it be some slower stuff, like more atmospheric, like from first albums, or more like this folk nasty rock from the last album?
It's more like nasty rock from the last album. I mean, even we're playing a couple of older songs, but nothing from the first album. But even the older songs that for the last few years, it's like we'll take older songs and turn them into louder songs. We did one tour playing songs from the first record and playing very quietly, and it was a very bad experience, So since then, we reached this point where we made a decision to be, a louder type of band, Mostly because we play mostly in bars, and it's pretty silly to ask people who are drunk to like sit and pay special attention to your special little thing. We felt like idiots doing that, you know? So we're proud of the fact that we're a band now that can play any bar on any night and at least, win over, let's say, a third of the audience on any night, you know? That would be a bad night, so.
Yeah. And you have such a tight schedule, like show every day. It's kind of reminds me of Spartacus, because his tactics was to move fast
right.
during the night. Do you have any free time, or?
This tour is actually one of the best we've had. Like, we have mostly, except towards the end, we have a lot of days off, you know. But yeah, usually it's like not many days off, and you just go. Like a day off is a day where the drive is short, you know. But I don't know. It's I used to earn a living moving furniture, you know. This is much easier work than moving furniture, you know. So yeah. I don't complain.
You mentioned your work, previous work. Many young bands have to quit their jobs because of touring. Have you ever been in this situation? I mean, how did you cope with it?
Well, when we started playing music in Godspeed in Montreal was a very sort of poor and cheap city to live in. So you could get by with, you know, just part-time jobs. You could afford your rent doing that, and you could eat. You couldn't live a fancy life. But so, you know, and now we tour so often that it's like, and we do pretty good as a band. So it's been a lot of years since I've had to work another job.
Yeah, and maybe you can tell us something about your latest album. What are the main themes for it, and maybe the concept behind the name?
The record's called 13 Blues for 13 Moons, and there's this, in Chinese astrology, there's this idea that in a year that has 13 full moons in it, that people who are sort of physically ill or mentally ill will have a very terrible year in a year with 13 moons. And so 2006 was a year of 13 moons, and it felt like everybody we knew was either getting sick in the head or getting sick in the body. So that's why the record is called 13 Blues for 13 Moons. And the record is mostly about this idea of people watching the people you love get worn down by life, you know, as we all get older. So it's a love song for those friends, the entire record. Yeah.
But the overall mood is more like you become more like, I could say, there are even some elements, I would say, in some songs almost from sludge rock, or I don't know. The sound is really powerful and dirty, and it is contrasts with your previous work.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I mean, this is the first record that we've made that was all songs that we'd played live before. And in the last few years, this is what we sound like live. Like even the violins are distorted, you know, like it's this is what we do now. So. And
how do you see it about music? Do people have to interpret the signs you give them with the music lyrics, or do they? It's important what you meant by this song when you say you speak to audience, and maybe what are your social views on life?
Are you asking what our social views are?
No. I mean, how do you see? Is it you leave music totally to people, or you want them to hear a specific message?
Maybe not a specific message, but like, you know, at least a clear idea of what the song isn't about, you know? Like we're all very proud people in this band, and through a lot of hard work we've figured out a way to live with each other and a way to work that we're proud of. And so a lot of what we do is about that, you know. It's just this sort of prideful, like not arrogance, but yeah, like sort of a clear statement of intent, if that makes any sense.
How would you then say about this quote, musicians are cowards?
Yeah, because musicians are cowards.
But you say you can be proud.
Yeah, well, wait, but I'm a coward also, you know. Yeah, musicians are cowards. I've never met a musician who wasn't a coward, deep at heart. But, you know, maybe if I was a baker, I would think that bakers were cowards too, you know. Yeah. I think I just know more musicians than any other type of person. You know? Yeah,
Steve Reich once said that the musician should be as a carpenter, like you should make something that's useful for people.
Yeah.
And otherwise, he said, it's not big use. Do you feel like doing that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, we see music as a social activity that involves, I mean, like, we believe in live music, you know, like, it's, that's how we earn our living. So it's like we believe, yeah, in this music as a thing that it's a rare thing that people do together in a room, you know, and it creates situations that hint at the possibilities of like a better world, even if it's just for a second or two. And I don't mean that in a hippie way or a super idealistic way, but just that's the feeling that people get when they're together in the same situation, you know. So a good show, whether you're in the audience or in the band, you know, sort of it's like a window opening just a very little bit. So yeah, I mean, again, most of what we do is like about the act of making music, you know, about the idea of being a touring band, like in the old sense of the word, you know.
I read somewhere on internet, I don't know, you talked about music and a sacred state for it, like where it takes you to some, and I know, like a psychedelic moment. How do you see that? Which was in music as we look like a tool for some religious experience. How do you see, is it possible to connect that part of music together with a social message?
Well, yeah, absolutely, of course. I mean, you know, I don't believe in God, but I mean, people praying together in a church or in a synagogue or in a mosque, that's also a social activity. That's like, music fulfills that same role, you know, like it is a sacred activity, you know. And anything, we live in such a dehumanized age, and we were all born into a dehumanized age, that it's sad, but it's like to even save these little human rituals that we have, you know, like that's live music is one of those rituals, you know, like that's why we call what we do folk music, you know, like it's in that tradition. It's like
storytelling.
Yeah, exactly. It's a thing that people do because it's a thing that people do, you know what I mean? It's not like a special thing, you know, we're not special. We feel like we're working within a tradition of musicianship that's you know, being deteriorated day after day after day after day.
Yes.
So yeah.
Okay, maybe we can take a musical pause and then we'll be right back in studio. Tā mēs esam atpakaļ studijā. Šodien mums ir viesis no Kanādas, Efrims Manucks, un rītā grupa Silmānta Zēna, viņi uzstāsies Grīvas mēbelēs. Protams, vakarā, es domāju, mēs visi tiksimies, būs vienreizēja iespēja piedalīties. Es cik saprotu, būs komunikācija no grupas puses, un tas būs tāds labs prāta piedzīvojums. So, Efrim, can I ask you a question about, you once said that you take music very seriously, and that regards everything connected with music, the way it's distributed, the way the tour is happening. Is it hard to do that? Because I mean, it's more easy maybe for some bands just to get money for what they do and really don't care how they are presented, or they don't have some maybe creative freedom. Is it hard to walk your own path? So, no, not your own, but I mean, not to go the most easiest way.
It's not very hard, you know, and I mean, like our sort of approach on the anything you do in life is going to have to involve money, because that's the world we live in, and that's a shitty thing, and we hate it, like most people. So, but then if you accept that fact, then I think for bands, too many bands just go for like the short money, the quick money, the easy money. And they end up making music that doesn't mean anything, For a lot of bands, it doesn't make any difference, because what they make music about doesn't really mean anything in the first place, But if you are making music that's trying to be about something, then all you have to do is think about the decisions that you make at any given point and decide that you're more interested in doing this for a long time, and you reach a certain level where you feel lucky because you don't have to work a job anymore, and you can earn an honest living playing music. So it'd be like the analogy we've used before is like, my grandfather owned his own small little grocery store in Winnipeg, Canada, and he did that for his whole life, and he like raised my father and raised my aunt and earned an honest living. That's how we approach our band. It's just like, it's not, we're not going to be the biggest band in the world. We don't want to be the biggest band in the world. We just sort of move ahead slowly, and we'll keep doing that until we feel like the music that we're making isn't valid anymore, or we can't stand each other anymore, or so on that level it's not hard at all. You just have to think about it,
What will happen when maybe Semanario becomes a really big band, and it becomes like a pattern, like from Gibson's book Pattern Recognition, when like I think that's why people hate the name post-rock, because it became like a pattern that could be used for other purposes, and like a trendy thing. What if that happens so when people say this is the next big thing, we should follow what they're doing?
But I mean that'll never happen, like that's the the history of this band is interesting because three of us were in the band Godspeed You, Black Emperor, and the decisions that Godspeed made as a band early on sort of closed these doors to everybody, forever, you know what I mean? Like, so it'll never happen. Like at this point with Mad Zion, it's like people know what we're about, and we'll never get some sort of glowing, super hyped review on Pitchfork or whatever. That's not going to happen. And that it's sad, but that's what the music industry is now. So it'll never happen that we're like a super trendy thing. If it did happen, I don't know what we would do. But that's because I'm sure that it'll never happen.
It's pretty hard to happen if you don't want it.
Yeah, I also have the post-rock term. I've always hated the term post-rock because, any band I've ever been in has been about like some form of rock, it's so this post-rock thing has always been. I mean, it's like I believe in loud music, not only loud music. I like quiet music as well, but where I got raised and the type of music I listened to growing up, I mean, it was always loud rock music, whether it was punk rock or, some other version of rock. So post-rock is always like, I've always hated that term.
And you mentioned decisions that Godspeed made. I think the people who listen to your music knows that you have a certain opinions about how your music can be used, and I just want to ask this question about the Lost TV show, because I know that people all are curious. Was it because you sold I don't know, as I understood, you gave your music for a Lost TV show, and some people said that it's of course it differs from your other views that you didn't allow to use their music for some commercial projects.
Right. I mean, with Godspeed and also with Mount Zion, you know, the thing for us has always been we won't let someone use our music if we don't like what they're doing, you know? So some of us in Mount Zion watch the television program Lost, you know? I mean, for a television program, it's a good I mean, we enjoy it, you know? Like
it's a hardcore TV show, I would say.
Well, yeah, I don't...
The good way is that...
Yeah.
Not easy chewing, yeah, so...
Yeah, no, it's... I mean, so yeah, we watch TV like everyone else. We don't live... in a little political bunker somewhere, you know, with our hands over our ears. So that was the first thing. It was like, then the second thing is like the offer itself was to use 7 seconds of one of our songs, and it was a song that in all our years of touring and talking to people, no one had ever mentioned this song as a song that they, you know, oh, this song meant a lot. You know, you hear stuff like that, you know, so that made it easy also. And it's not a song that any of us were attached to. So it didn't have like any sort of, you know... Anyway, so that made it easier. And so basically it came down to we got offered this amount of money to use 7 seconds of a song that we didn't particularly like very much, to be used in a television commercial for the program that was mostly going to be on the internet, on their webpage, and would air a few times over the course of 2 weeks. So for us, it was sort of like... Our engagement with the industry has always been super pragmatic. And so on that level, it was like, okay, yeah, we would be pretty stupid to say no to that. But saying all that, with Mount Zion, we turned down many thousands of dollars every year of offers like that, you know? So part of it, too, for us was knowing, well, you know, we've deserve the right to every now and then, you know, say yes to something like that. But I don't think we'll ever do anything like that again, you know? It was a decision we made at the time, but I don't expect we'll be saying yes again to anything like that.
You sometimes criticize Celine Dion or U2 or Bono. I mean, not as a what they do, maybe as a mythology behind them, I think, maybe. And the same way, you mentioned that you're fans of Led Zeppelin. Don't you see? Wouldn't you agree that there's a certain connection? I think maybe for me, I think the same mythology behind Led Zeppelin and U2 kind of very similar, as big rock stars and all that myth that's going behind that, and industry actually behind those bands.
For sure, although there are differences, you know.
What I wanted to ask you, when is that moment when you can say, "Oh, I just care for the music. I don't care about the other stuff," and
that moment is all that. I mean, you can do that anytime, you know. Like, I get really impatient with bands who present some sort of ideal, you know, whether it's a political ideal or a social ideal. And they present that on one hand, and on the other hand, all they're interested in is being famous and rich, right? So U2, you know, Bono is walking around the world pronouncing everywhere about, like, you know, poverty in Africa, and, you know, sort of like doing show-offy campaigns about, you know, he did that red Visa card thing. Do you know this thing? It was like, you got this Visa card and bought these certain items of clothing in certain stores that were the red brand, and then some percentage of that went towards feeding people in Africa.
Oh, I don't know, but I can understand what
and then it turns out that like the entire budget of this program went to just paying for itself, so no money was going anywhere. I mean, you know, that's a classic Bono move. I mean, Bono is straight up just either a fool or just an asshole. So, you know, and so that's the thing that always gets under my skin, is stuff like that when it's presented as one thing and in reality it's this other thing. And there, you know, if a band isn't sort of presenting itself as an idealistic venture, then I'm a lot less troubled by whatever decisions they make in their, you know, I'm not like a super judgmental person, right? You know, I like fake is fake, right? And so, you know, if you care about music and you love music, then of course you're going to be offended by people pretending to also be caring about and loving music, you know, or loving the, you know, the most precious aspect of music, you know. So yeah, that stuff bothers me immensely, you know. Yeah, that stuff bothers me immensely, you know.
Is there like do you go? I know you work at the studio. Do you go to shows to watch bands? Is there some, I don't know, anything that blew your mind? Some good show lately? Or do you hang out at shows, or you?
Yeah. I mean, I go to shows in Montreal, like same as I always have. Maybe a little less often. Is there anything that blew my mind? Whenever people ask me this question, I always immediately blank out, so I can't think of anything recently. But I'm sure in 15 minutes I'll remember something.
I wanted to ask you if you would say, as I don't know, not Quebec, but Montreal is like new mecca for a fresh perspective on a maybe not so fresh musical genres, or because I think so many good music's coming these days from Canada, and not, I don't know about the mainstream, but I mean from non-mainstream music, it's really like good stuff there. Is there some? Do you have a? I don't know if you agree to me, but do you have any opinion why would it be so?
I mean, there's always been good music coming out of Canada, and there's always been good music coming out of Montreal. There's always been good music coming out of Toronto. There's always been good music coming out of Vancouver, Winnipeg. I mean, you know, the same as in any country. There's good musicians everywhere and good bands everywhere. So I don't see any difference on that level, you know. Things don't seem any better or worse now than they did 15 years ago. So, yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Do you know your, I don't know, country mates Bell Orchestra?
Yeah, I mean, Montreal is a small town, so I know them.
Yes. They said they were in an interview here, and they said that they thought that's because world is like paying more attention these days to scene of Canada, maybe because they got fed up of some other music. I don't know. Is there like a lot of artists in Montreal and a lot of musicians?
I mean, same as any other large city, I would say, although not so much anymore. But you know, it used to be the type of people who moved to Montreal from other places in Canada were people who were, you know, maybe interested in doing something a little more difficult. You know, it was a hard city to live in on one hand, and it was also an easy city to live in because it was very inexpensive to live there, you know. So that led to a certain type of music scene, but this was many years ago. Now I think there are a lot more people moving there and playing in bands who are moving there because the Arcade Fire are supposed to be from there, you know. So yeah.
And is it when recording process for this latest album, you do it all? Do you do it live, or you record it separately?
This last record was the first record where we didn't record it all live. So we did like bed tracks that were, it's different song by song, but it was always drums and at least, you know, a couple of other instruments. It's the first record we've done like that. And we did that mostly because we'd always had a very shitty, what we thought was a very shitty drum sound. So we knew we wanted the drums to sound enormous on this record. So we did the thing that you do so that the drums sound enormous, which is that you track in smaller pieces with some isolation. Yeah. And
this way, how you record your music, is this also a part of your views on music? I mean, like you don't do any pitch correction or stuff like that. And how do you see, does those things kill music if you overproduce music in?
Absolutely. Well, kill music, I don't know. It kills
perception of music.
Well, yeah, it kills an aspect of music that's I think is precious. You know, like we make records that sound like people playing in a room together. We're not the only band that does that, but again, it's an aspect of music that we love. So I don't know. I can't think other than obviously like hip hop and electronic music. I can't think of any records that have pitch correction on them that I like. So, but maybe that's just a personal taste thing.
What are your views about downloading music? I mean, is there? I can see there's a good ways that people can get music, and like Metallica, they sued Napster, I think, for distributing music, but that's the way how they got popular. I think in cassettes, I got Metallica record with a cassette that was not. But do you see some bad signs for it, like people downloading on just listening on computer music and?
Yeah, I think it's a complicated issue, but yeah, I mean, first of all, I think music that's not attached to an actual physical object, is removed from any context, and it's so then a beautiful thing about records is that it has artwork, and then it has the thing that you play in it as well, and it's a perfect union of mediums, you know what I mean? It's just a lovely thing. Even a CD, is like that. Now when you download things, it's just sort of music that's compressed in a very, MP3s don't sound very good. It's just a different way of listening to music that I think is changing the ways that people understand music. It's becoming more and more abstracted, and more removed from any sort of physical reality. So I think that's a terrible thing, and I also think it's only a temporary state of affairs, for a lot of reasons. But I don't think it's gonna be this way forever. Sooner or later, people need objects. People understand objects, and that's gonna return. Whether the object then becomes just a live performance, I don't know. But the other thing about downloaded music is that, when it's presented, this idea that this is a new digital utopia where anybody could make a record in their bedroom and then have everybody hear them, and the major labels are all going bankrupt, and so the internet is just somehow revolutionary and progressive. I mean, all that's happened is that the millions of dollars that the major labels used to collect are now being collected by global telecommunication giants. I mean, that's not a romantic. That's not fucking the man. You're just giving your money to. I mean, I don't know who the internet provider is in Latvia. But
we have some.
Yeah, no, of course. But I'm saying, so you're giving your money to Deutsche Telekom instead of. Sony Records. How is that? That's not progress. It's just a transfer of wealth from one industry to another, or the iTunes music store and all that. I mean, it's so I get very tired of hearing all the time that this is now, by its very nature somehow progress, and it's not. It's the same as it always was. It's just a little bit different, but the dynamic is the same, but there are no more objects anymore. There's just these sort of crappy sounding MP3s everywhere that make drums sound like this. That's not a terrific state of affairs, Yeah, I mean, cassettes were better than MP3s, At least you had to get a pen out and write stuff on the cassette,
So you're a believer of analog technologies, I mean, in that case, of music listening and distributing music and...
Well, it still hasn't happened that, digital technology has surpassed analog technology for fidelity when it comes to music. I mean, that's just a fact. So I believe that, it took a lot of, analog technology sort of for music reached its peak, for recording at least, and playback, in the 80s, right? You know, not for guitars and amplifiers, but actually for tape machines and like, so it took a long time for analog technology to reach up. It took decades. And so digital technology is still young. I believe it'll probably progress to a point where it's as good as analog technology, but it's not even close to that right now. It just sounds bad, you know, like for recording and for playback as well. It doesn't sound as good.
So I think maybe we can wrap up our interview, and it was very nice to speak with you.
It was nice being here.
And I see you tomorrow at the show, perhaps, and best wishes for your tour. And
well, thank you.
Have a good sleep when you can.
I hope so. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, goodbye. Ar to arī mēs klausītāji atvadamies no Efrima, un tad rītā Grīvas mēbelēs notiek Zīsilma un Zēna koncerts. Ienu 8 iesildīs Imants Daksis, un tas, uz šo notikumu tad es domāju ir vērts doties, lai pat ja varbūt jūs neuzrunā mūziku, vienkārši lai piedalītos kādā lielā notikumā Latvijas muzikālajā dzīvē. Labnakt! Dancing the horror until we vomited blood. Spinning like crazy. Shoshana was Jones then. The towers had fallen. Grandfather's name. Let's kill first the banker with his professional demeanor. Let's televise and broadcast the raping of kings. Let our crowds be fed on tear gas and plate glass.